Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Nexa 2.5. This is the analog version, also comes in an HD version. I think it's HD0 and walk snail though because it's kind of a super micro. And what's most interesting about this is that this is designed to run 2S and 3S batteries. Now, there is a throttle limit set on that. We can talk about that as well. So if you have some 2S batteries and some 3S batteries, you can charge them all up and take them out to fly. Or if you only have a couple, it allows you to do either because you just switch the PID profile in Betaflight to go from 2S to 3S. I will say there's not a huge performance difference between 2S and 3S because of the throttle or the motor limit that has been set on this. You can fly it all out, 100% throttle on 3S. I did that the first week I had it. It was tuned too tight, and then when the props got banged up, it started doing weird things. So, Avant Quads, now known as AvionRC, they retuned it and they decided to put a throttle limit of 85% on the motor limit, 85%. But we'll talk more about that. The Nexa 2.5 has the HackRC F12 20 amp all-in-one flight controller. It's actually compatible from 2 to 4S, and we get a close look at these solder blobs. Nice clean soldering in my opinion. The FPV camera is the Caddx Ant. It does have the secondary connector on it, so when you get your control board, you can change the camera settings on the Caddx Ant. But in my video, I fly it stock. The motors are the Spark Hobby 1103 8500 kV. The props on those 1103 motors are the Gemfan 2512 prop. Tri-bladed props, that is. And they are press-on, no screws are included, and they are very tight on these motor shafts. So you get them off, twist and pull, twist and pull. Maybe wrap some tape around your fingers too. That might help decrease the finger pain when pulling off props like this. The VTX is a little bit of a curiosity. It's a Beta FPV M03 and it is 25 milliwatts to 350 milliwatts, although in the VTX tables it's set up for 400 milliwatts. So I'm not certain we're getting what we should be getting. But that's how it came to me, so we fly it as it comes. XT30 for your battery connection. It's got a rubberized, fairly thick battery mat with no texture on it. It's got an appropriately sized Avant Quads, but again, AvionRC is their new name. Battery strap. So I put a Happy Model EP2 inside of there because it came with an FrSky XM Plus, and ugh. But that is an option if you're stuck with FrSky. Have your fun. By the way, the other receiver options are Crossfire. The Express LRS receiver that it would come with is from Beta FPV. Or you can get it without an RX. I will draw out that capacitor out here, and it is secured to the battery lead. The battery lead is secured down to this rear standoff. I can't quite make it out. I've got too much dirt and debris back there on it as to what voltage and microfarads that is. We've got 3 TPU prints, one to hold our antenna VTX, one that is essentially just holding onto our receiver to keep it up away from the flight controller, which is a good idea. And then, of course, we have the one holding our camera, which has a screw right over here on the side, which gives us the ability to have camera angle from the top. You can see I've got my camera fairly high up. We got a couple of millimeters, maybe 3 more millimeters of camera angle we can get there. We have got my preferred tape holding down the motor wires for their safekeeping. Note that the frame, it's not traditional style. They are supporting the 2 exterior points of the all-in-one flight controller with just a little bit of carbon fiber. That'll help keep the weight overall down. Also note that we only have 2 screws holding in the motors. I don't have a problem with that, but some people would prefer 3. And others will prefer 4. The holes line up, so we could put them in ourselves, I guess. Carbon fiber is a full 3mm thick. Bottom plate is a full 3mm thick. And the top plate is 1.5mm thick. And motor post to motor post, I'm getting 115mm. It weighs just about 64.5 grams. In the second flight, which is 2S, I use this G&B 550 milliamp 2S battery. And with that battery, it weighs just a touch over 94 grams. In the first flight, you're going to see I use this G&B 660 milliamp 3S battery. And with that battery, it weighs 114.5 grams. Okay, with the camera angle up high like this, oddly enough, when it's overcast like this particular day, it actually blows out the camera more than if it would be full sun, and you'll get to see that as well and compare it. In the 2S flight, it's full sun. Also, the video transmission, I would encourage you to look at that. That was one of the things that I thought wasn't quite up to what my expectations. I kind of felt like it was running a little bit low, or that we just weren't getting the full milliwatts out of it. See up there in the top right hand corner, race band 8, which is my typical channel, and I usually max out the VTX on these things just so you can see what the max is like in my environment. Labeled at 400 milliwatts. I'm not sure we're getting the full out of that, but I still thought I'd seen better 400 milliwatt VTXs in the backyard. Although I must concede this is a humid day, as well as we had a storm that night that took most of the night, and then we have another storm that's kind of cooking up, and it actually rained about an hour and a half after this flight, maybe 2 hours. So this was an after-work flight. I think this was an after-work flight, and then it rained kind of that evening. We do have a bit of wind. You might be able to hear it on my secondary audio camera that I use to record flight audio, and then I blend into the video. Something that I think it's important to note is that just because this one can run 2 and 3S, even with that 85% motor limit on it, you're not going to see a huge difference in the punch-outs. But where I felt it with the 3S was in the quick response. So when you needed a little bump up, you know, maybe you're just doing a quick pump over something like that little tree that I like to play around that kind of had some recent damage. Oh, did you see that stick that just flew by? Yeah, that was from the overnight storm. Apparently a stick fell out of the tree and just stuck perfectly straight down to the ground right along the fence line, which is one of my favorite things to do. I think I do it in every video. I love to buzz down that fence line. It kind of gives me a little bit of that racing feel. But I was saying about the 3S battery. The 3S battery isn't going to like blow your mind in additional performance. It's going to really matter the most, or you're going to feel it or notice it the most in the short, quick movements where you need a little bit more throttle. It'll just respond a little bit faster. Matter of fact, you know, you could run 2 different browser windows and compare the punch-outs that I do on 2S and 3S, because I do very, very similar things in most of my videos these days. Although I am working on adding some other things, I just got to get more proficient at them. So you can compare the two just to see if you get any additional punch-out, really. I think if you're starting out, decreasing your weight is always a good thing. So when you do crash, you decrease your probability that you'll damage your quad because of less battery weight. But, again, if you have a limited amount of 2S batteries that are applicable to this quad, and you want this quad, and you have a limited amount of batteries that are applicable to this quad that are 3S, you can combine them two all together, charge them all up, and go out and fly, and get all your flights in. If you're in that specific use case. There's a horizontal line that breaks across my DVR. Still working on that. I flashed my goggles again. Oh, it was right after I got back from vacation. There was another version that they put out for beta testing, and I thought it was working pretty well, but I'm still getting that horizontal line that kind of rolls vertically across the screen every now and again. And I'm pretty certain that's specific to the HD0 goggles running the rapid fire module. So unless you've got that specific combination with the same firmware I'm running, you probably won't see that. The flight time isn't going to be that much, the flight time on 2S is actually going to be greater. I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you're thinking that 3S just gets you more flight time, that's not the particular case in my findings with a lot of flights on 2S and 3S. We're going to come down that stick again. Hopefully I time that up right. We can get that narration in the video. That stick, even though I know it's there, I just get so kind of, I'm not cognizant of it. It's not in my typical thought process to things to avoid when I'm flying, that it's just pure luck that I'm not wanging into that stick on those passes that I did through the backyard. And I must have flown 10 batteries this particular day. You can see, yeah, I got my business clothes on. Blue shirt, because blue is better. Blue pants, because blue is better. And red shoes for safety.
Boom shakala!
All right, that's the end of the flight, and yeah, came in at 3.51 volts per cell. This is our 2S flight, and we have more wind. You can see the trees blowing around up there, 12 to 15 miles an hour, but it's going to handle it, I think, just fine. So now you see, as we get the nose down and we're not staring so much at the sun, you can see that we have pretty much a full sun when we're not in the shadow, and the camera, how it handles the light is just, it's a lot different when it's pointed up at that full bright sun. And overcast is even worse. It's oddly enough, it blows it out even more. The clouds, the sun blowing through the clouds or shining through the clouds makes it look even worse. I'd kind of forgotten that was an issue with the Caddx Ant. I've been running the Caddx Ant on a lot of, bigger motor whoops, larger propped whoops, just because that camera is pretty decent. It's cheap. It's not as light as the Runcam Nano. Geez, I forget the name. Is it 3 still? Are we still going version 3 of the Nano? It's the one that's like 1.4 grams. Anywho, so on 2S, you want to pay attention to the performance. So you can gauge whether your batteries or batteries you might want to fly are either 2S or 3S, and in some ways you might prefer 2S over 3S on this particular quad, and I can get with that. I would agree that, you know, the decrease in weight changes your agility. I think 3S is more fun for those really quick responsive, but not the quick response in like doing a big punch out like I do over the house or do above the chimney or something like that, but it's more about the quick response of shorter moves, a little bit like that what I do around the tree, that I don't know what to call it. I don't know, I just come up to it, I kind of hit the throttle, and then I nose down and kind of rotate, roll around as I go over it, whatever that thing is called. You'll notice it there that you just don't have to use as much throttle for as long. That's the sort of thing where you'll notice 3S kind of kick in. This flight will go longer than the 3S flight. I've seen this flight a few times. And I believe it goes 4 minutes and 40 seconds. So pretty dang efficient. You know, we're running 2.5-inch props. They're fairly low-pitched props. And I think that's something else that if you're a tinkerer and you like this sort of quad or this quad, I think this quad could handle some higher-pitched props. And we would decrease that efficiency a little bit by using a higher pitch prop, but you probably also get more punch. Hopefully you still maintain the quick agility and response out of it. Yeah, the Scraggle got me a lot. You might notice that even in my first flight, I was able to, well, I got into it, and then it didn't take me down. I didn't get that far into it. But yeah, that little Scraggle, even on HD, I've been having struggles with not getting caught up into that. So I need to go out and take my pole saw or whatever I need to be able to cut that stuff down and get that out of there. It's over in the neighbor's yard, but we do have new neighbors. They are from a small town here in the Midwest, but originally from the, I think they're from the LA area out in California. Firefighter and a stay-at-home mom. And they also have mom's parents live with them, as well as her younger brother. So full family over there. Should be interesting. Very nice people. I've enjoyed getting to know them a little bit and talk to them. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting stories being a firefighter, and not just fighting fires, but all the other situations that firemen get called to. So I'm sure we'll get to know each other a great deal more over the coming months. But they have one child, and he's real young right now. I mean, like 10 months old. So I'm sure they're going to be inside more than outside as far as the next probably year or so. But you never know. We invited them over to use the pool anytime they'd like. Back to the quad. It flies good. And if you are curious about Avant quads, I have been a fan of Avant quads for quite a while. I appreciate how well they're built, the soldering that's used, how they design, the way they perform when flight, and the fact that I have nary had anyone come back to me and say anything negative about support when they have asked for support. So if you have experiences with Avant quads, now AvionRC, that good, bad, or otherwise, I always need to know, because my experience is one guy's experience, and they're sending me these quads for review purposes, but I need to know from the community that are buying these things. Speaking of, I do have a coupon code that will get you free shipping, and I believe it's DHL Shipping, which is the fastest shipping. So if your flying season is closing out, or you just anxious to get a new toy from AvionRC, I have the code for free shipping of ARC331. That is ARC, the number's 331. Okay, our flight is ended. I flew that one a touch long. I would say probably somewhere to 5 to 10 seconds too long. But we got nearly 5 minutes at 4 minutes and 48 seconds. So easily we could get 4:45. Depending upon your fly, you might get 5 or 6. Okay, I want to make sure it's abundantly clear that Avant quads, so if you see videos out there on the internet and they at once said Avant quads, even my own, and you want to acquire those quads, and that ARC331 coupon code for free DHL shipping will also work for those products. It's now over at AvionRC.com, and I will put that here on the screen. I had a channel update video not that long ago where I kind of talked about that a little bit. I don't want to get long in the tooth. They had some problems with processing payments. Business must be complicated. I haven't been a business owner in many years, so I'm not sure what they had to go through in order to get that rectified, but it ended up in them changing at least their website to get new payment processing going. And I do want to hear about any sort of customer support issues, that not necessarily issues because that sounds negative, but What has your experience been when you've acquired an Avant Quads quad, now AvionRC, and how's that gone? Because I've had many good reports. So if they didn't go very well, I'd need to know about that as well, because I do like their products and I think they do a nice job and I think they stand behind it. Very small shop. You probably won't find the Avant Quads AvionRC reviews on too many typical review channels. I don't recall how they came to me, because I really wasn't quite aware of their products until I got my hands on my first one. They've got 3-inch, 3.5-inch. They've got some 4-inchers, but mainly they're 3.5-inch and less in prop size on their quads. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to get as many opinions as I can. And I know the people that love digital say, oh, why would you fly analog? I still fly analog most of the time. 60% or more, I still fly analog. But this particular VTX, I was not overly impressed with the video performance. And many of you may have used this component in builds of your own or in other quads. And I'm curious about your perspective. Is this something that they maybe should target to replace? I know it's small. It fits well within the thin body of the frame. And they may be close partners with Beta FPV. I don't know, but that was one thing that I was fairly disappointed in. I don't know this to be certain, but I would like to see that they actually just include some extra motor screws. Being they only use 2 on each motor, I think it's an easy thing for them to throw 4 extras in a bag, whether it be this bag. Maybe I should look. Maybe it's in this bag. There are some screws in here. This is the typical camera accessory bag. I don't see any motor screws or anything. We got a camera adapter plate. We've got the cable and the control board and some various size of mounting screw. That's the typical Caddx camera bag. So I would like to see them include the 4 extra motor screws for those people that would like to have those. And I will send them a message before I post this video, kind of requesting that on the behalf of anyone who might come and purchase. We do have motor protection in these 2 little horns, little pokey outy things. So if you go up against a tree and it clears the prop or bends and breaks the prop, the motor wouldn't necessarily take a hit. But of course, that only applies when you hit at an angle where the motor's not going to be there, not going to meet the tree or the pole or the brick or whatever it is first. But it does give you some of those angles of motor protection. That's something I don't think I've been pointing out recently, so that's my fault. This has a little bit of a 3D print up here that guards the nose. So if you, especially because it's top mounted, we don't see a lot of top mounted micros. So you've like to do that low, especially on asphalt or cement, that skater sort of, I think of it as skater store. I never really skated it anyway, but you're just skimming along the ground real close. That will give you a little bit of protection and make sure you're not splitting the lamination off the front end of your bottom plate. If you like to do that sort of stuff, because that's fun. It simulates, in my mind, it simulates what I do along that back line of the fence. Avant Quads, one of the things that I've always appreciated them, and I did not prompt them to do this, they have just always done it to my knowledge, is to secure our battery lead down so we don't have to worry about a battery ejection, and then pulling on this lead real hard, and then it pulling off of our ESC and causing us to buy a new ESC all-in-one board, which should maybe be, it's anywhere from $70 to $100 nowadays. So the zip tie is there and it's in place, and they use sometimes they use a 3D print, but this particular time it looks like they use a specific size of thick band in order to secure the capacitor down to the battery lead. You do have some wiggle room in the antenna. See the little loop here? So you could redesign this mount if you're someone who likes to use Tinkercad or whatever CAD programs to design a mount and then reprint it yourself to get the antenna up a little bit higher above the battery. That might improve the reception in some angles between the quad and you, but overall, I'm curious about this VTX. That's the one thing that kind of sticks back for me. I'm going, I'm not sure that VTX is performing up to my expectations. I also, they build theirs a lot like I build mine. It's almost like they used to watch my old build videos. So we've got a screw, and then we've got a metal nut. So that metal nut holds this firm vertically. It won't jiggle around. And then they used nylon nuts above the all-in-one flight controller to have that little spacer, that little mounting plate for the receiver up there. And this is exactly how I would build mine, not just a top mount, but all of my micros using an all-in-one. This is just exactly what I do. I use a metal nut down here to make sure that my stack stays strong and stays sturdy. It's not flopping around, it's not moving around. And then we've got the gummies with an appropriate amount of tension from the top nut so it can still move. Hopefully, I kind of had that out of frame, sorry. So you can see it still moves. It still has some anti-vibration properties in there as well. One thing about mounting the battery, I'll cover this kind of quickly. So what I do is I put a twist in my lead. I put the balance lead through there, and with the length of the lead that it comes with, going this way, you could probably do it. But how I did it in all my flights, see if I can do this fairly quick, is I would put the battery in here about like that. And usually I would hunker the battery down, move my battery strap forward here. It's not working out. It's getting stuck under here. What are we stuck on? Oh, yeah, back into my receiver here. I need to shuffle it forward. Okay, now that I got it forward, so I would strap the battery down, and then I would put my battery lead in there, run it around. Battery lead's a little bit long when you only got that little 2S, so I just kind of tuck it. You could, of course, chop the very end off. And then I give it another little twist, maybe 2 twists, and then I plug it in. And at my camera angle, we're getting that no RX beep warning there. Let me unplug. At my camera angle, that keeps these wires out of view. So that's how I do it. I just thought I would pass that along. I don't think I've mentioned that in other reviews. When there seems to be something that I can help contribute with there, I should mention it. Sometimes I just forget the things that I've said repetitively and things that I need to say more repetitively. So that is the Nexa 2.5. This is the analog version. They also have an HD version. I took another look. Looks like right now I'm only seeing Walk Snail as the HD version listed. They could have HD 0 coming, or maybe they just need to update the website. Again, Avant Quads, if you're looking for one of those, you should be able to find them, or at least you should be able to find some of them as they start getting rolling again. Again, it's a very small quad shop over at AvionRC. I'll have a link down in the video description. Do not forget the code that if you're interested in acquiring their products in some way, ARC331. ARC, the number's 331, gets you free DHL shipping. And I don't know about you, but DHL shipping where I am, like all the giveaways I've done, there's never been one package I could afford to ship DHL. It was always really expensive. But I think DHL shipping is always fast. They don't have like, a slow method. It's always fast, and so pay a premium for that. The price, speaking of premium for this, is $199 on the analog version. They have a bunch of different options for receiver types, getting extra props, extra carbon fiber, battery straps, stuff like that. They have these little drop downs on their website that you can select to choose your options. Of course, your cost is going to go up from $198. Sorry, I thought it said $199. I don't see so well with my glasses on when it comes to watching the computer screen. But so $198 on this. What do you think about the price? What do you think about the performance? And did you see the... Hopefully, I verbalized the difference that I experienced in flight between 2 and 3S. I think 2S is perfectly good fun. It's probably what I would stick with the most, except for maybe those days I've had a little bit too much coffee and I just need some extra quick response and some hammering of the throttle and those small ranges of the throttle. Hopefully I was able to verbalize that and you could see that in the 2 flight videos. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section down below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.